This is William Shatner for the National Safety Council. Personal protective equipment. All of these people have one thing in common. They are using personal protective equipment for their hands, faces, lungs, feet, ears, and eyes. Although the purpose of wearing personal protective equipment is to protect people from injury, there are still workers who avoid using their equipment, even though in many cases it is mandatory.
Okay, Joel, where's the hard hat? Let's get it on.
Sorry, Al.
As a supervisor, seeing that my crew wears their protective equipment is not only one of my responsibilities, it's a challenge.
There are many reasons workers give for not wearing personal protective equipment. From complaints that it's uncomfortable to not understanding how important it is to use. But the consequences can be a serious injury, resulting in the loss of time, money, delays in delivery, but most important, the unnecessary injury and suffering to a fellow worker. Your responsibility as a supervisor is not only to look out for your company's interests, but to protect your workers' welfare. It's not just your duty. Government regulations specify that protective equipment be worn. So how does a supervisor know when personal protective equipment is required and which type? And if personal protective equipment is required, how do you motivate your workers to use it?
The need for wearing protective equipment is sometimes obvious around this business. Workers don't want to get injured. Like our jackhammer operators, they know to wear hard hats, eye protection in case of flying pieces, hearing protection for the noise, and for their feet, foot protection. Welders don't want to take chances on sparks hitting them or getting a flash burn to their eyes from the welding arc. And then, some of my crew learn the hard way. All you need is one piece of iron falling on you, and you understand quickly about protective equipment. I wear a hard hat, not only for my protection, but to set an example. You've got to be willing to wear what you require a worker to wear. Sometimes you get a complaint about fit, or some things uncomfortable to wear. Then you try to help them find another size or type of protective equipment. You try to involve them. Personal protective equipment may be uncomfortable, but you try to see it's as comfortable as possible. Hi, Molly.
Hi.
Those gloves, how's the fit?
Fine, I'm getting used to them.
Good.
If you get a complaint about a fit or a piece of equipment that's uncomfortable, you've got to let them know the company wants them to have a choice and a chance to select protective equipment that feels right. Having a concern for your workers' safety and showing them that you care about them are both important. It helps morale and productivity.
When I'm assigned to a new area, like an area where I'm not sure of what protective equipment is recommended and mandatory, like on electrical jobs, I'll check the job safety analysis. It lists each job, the steps and the possible hazard the worker may come into contact with, and it recommends the right procedures to be followed. Some hard hats and gloves are made especially to protect against electrical shock. The job safety analysis tells you that.
As a supervisor, I have workers who come in contact with chemicals, vapors, and fumes, some that are highly dangerous or toxic, but it isn't always obvious. You can't always see or smell hazardous chemicals. My job is to double-check the labels, then the material safety data sheet, also known as MSDS, for the particular chemical a worker will be using. Then I see that the recommended personal protective equipment is selected and worn. Some decisions may require you to get the assistance of a specialist, like your industrial hygienist or safety professional.
Hi, Marcy.
Hi.
I've got to outfit a worker who'll be working with this chemical. What kind of gloves are we looking at?
That would be a neoprene material.
Okay. Now, about the ventilation over in that spray booth, we can still smell it in the air. Maybe there's a problem.
Maybe the air filters need to be changed. I'll check the ventilation and get some air samples.
Good deal. I need those neoprene gloves.
Okay.
In some cases, to determine the need for personal protective equipment, air samples must be taken. This is one of the steps to determine the need for personal protective equipment. If it's found that workers are exposed to hazardous chemicals, and if the hazard can't be reduced by engineering controls, personal protective equipment may have to be used. Checking with a specialized person, like the industrial hygienist, ensures that the proper protective equipment will be used.
My next goal is to educate the worker about working with that chemical and how to use and care for the personal protective equipment they'll be using for the job. I point out the hazards and see that they understand the reasons for wearing that particular equipment.
As a supervisor, you may be involved in selecting personal protective equipment.
I need you to wear these gloves, too.
Once the proper personal protective equipment has been
What about
selected,
these goggles?
and the worker
we have
educated
identified this
as
as
to
an
its
area where eye
care and
protection is
use,
required, so you
you,
have
the
to wear the goggles.
supervisor, come to your next
Now, if you have any
responsibility
questions or
and challenge,
any problems,
motivating
or
the
if
worker
equipment feels
to use their
uncomfortable, just let
personal
me know.
protective equipment.
We'll take care of it for you. You know, we also
Always
have some
assure the
ear
worker
inserts.
that you have their best
Pick these
interest
up
in
at
mind,
the,
and
safety
that they are
director's
made to
office.
feel like a part of the team.
And they dispense these on a
Make
regular
sure you
basis.
offer them a chance to
Real nice
participate in the
to
selection
take
of the
care of.
equipment they are expected to
And
use.
we would like you to read this.
By giving workers
This
an
guideline,
opportunity to
which
be
is
involved,
a safety booklet
they'll
our
be
company
much
has
more
put
willing to
together.
cooperate in the
You can
wearing
find that
of
very
that
helpful.
equipment.
Getting the workers to use their protective equipment can be a challenge. You must explain the hazards they are exposed to, and you must emphasize that company policy requires them to wear personal protective equipment.
Motivate your workers by getting them involved. If there is a complaint, act on it. Then follow through with the solution. This effort will make a positive statement to your employees. By reviewing past accident reports and checking the job safety analysis and the material safety data sheet, also known as the MSDS, you can learn what personal protective equipment is recommended.
Look, Floyd, this job requires a face shield. That saw can be dangerous. I don't want you hurt with things flying up in your face, okay?
Don't worry, I'm pretty careful.
I know, but those are the plant rules. You have to have face protection, so let's go find your
Always
face guard and
replace
we'll
any old,
proper gloves for you,
torn,
okay?
dirty, or
Okay.
worn-out protective equipment. In extreme temperature conditions, special care should be taken to see that the worker is properly protected, from head protection to the correct footwear. For example, shoes may need to be waterproof and slip-resistant or chemical-proof. These needs should be determined by working closely with your industrial hygienist or safety director. Posting safety reminders to wear personal protective equipment is another useful way to help your workers remember. Setting an example by following all the requirements yourself is the best reminder.
As a supervisor, I have 3 tools that help me determine when personal protective equipment is to be used. First, I have the job safety analysis, which lists the potential hazards. Second, past accident reports give me a picture of past problems. And finally, the material safety data sheets where chemicals are involved. If I need more help, I check with the industrial hygienist. Now, once the workers have the proper personal protective equipment, I follow up to see that they're using it. How's that new face guard? Does that feel okay?
That's fine, great. From now on, I'll use the proper protective equipment.
Good man, Floyd. If you have any problems, see me anytime.
Okay.
Once you determine there is a safety problem, you must act to correct it. When a safety hazard can't be eliminated and can't be engineered out, then you, as a supervisor, must see that the worker is issued the proper personal protective equipment. You are then responsible to see that the worker is educated in its proper care and use. When you are unsure of the proper personal protective equipment, use the job safety analysis and past accident reports as your guide to finding out what potential hazards exist and if the hazard can be controlled or eliminated. If not, you must see the workers are issued the proper personal protective equipment. If you have any
What kind of gloves
questions,
are we looking at?
check with your industrial hygienist. Once you have determined the need for
Now,
protective
about the
equipment,
ventilation.
involve the worker. Discuss each job with your workers. Find out if they have suggestions to help you improve the safety of their job. By involving each worker, you boost morale by letting them know they are appreciated. Once the protective equipment is issued, the next challenge is to see that they wear it. But if in the future there is a change in the job, such as new people, new equipment, or a change in the materials used, remember that the personal protective equipment requirements must be reevaluated and updated too. Each job or activity requires different safety considerations. It is your responsibility to know them. By following all the safety guidelines and involving each worker, you have done your job in controlling hazards and protecting your workers from accidents and injury. In the end, everyone benefits by being safety safe.